This is your step-by-step guide to recreating Montreal-style bagels at home. Manitoba ingredients are sought after worldwide, and for good reason. In this series, we will be making some of the world's most popular breakfast dishes with local ingredients. And we're starting with Montreal-style bagels featuring two of our most prized agricultural exports. Oh, damn, that's good. These bagels have an extra sweet flavor and chewy texture thanks to a little secret ingredient I'll tell you about later. I'm Gordon Bailey. I'm a professional chef and culinary instructor. I've been developing recipes for close to 30 years. My career has given me the opportunity to travel around the world exploring different food products only to discover that some of the highest quality ingredients are grown right here in Canada. I'm going to start by adding all the dry ingredients to the mixer. So first off is going to be the flour. And in this case, I'm using bread flour. The reason being is it's got a higher protein content, which helps form that gluten structure that you really want to have when making certain bread products. It helps trap that gas, give it the leavening and rise that it needs to have. So there, I'm going to add now my salt, instant yeast, and there's a couple different yeasts you can use. Instant yeast is great because you can add it directly to the dry ingredients without any hydration. If you're going to use dry active, you got to hydrate it first. Then I'm going to close my mixer here, lock it down, add my water, turn it on to medium. We're going to let that mix for about 8 minutes. But of course, I got to add my sweetener, a little bit of Bee-Made honey, 1 tablespoon to be precise. If you add a little bit more, that's all right. We've got to let this mix for at least 8 minutes or so. We believe every ingredient tells a story. And thanks to sponsors like Manitoba Crop Alliance and Bee-Made Honey, we get to help tell those stories. Dive deeper into Manitoba's food stories on our site. There you can explore our recipe archive and see the why behind every ingredient we use. Okay, now that we've mixed about 8 minutes or so, I'm just gonna tear off a little piece of this dough to check to see if I've got my gluten window that I'm looking for. And what you're trying to see here is basically a transparent window-like thinness in your dough product like that. There we go, we've totally achieved our gluten window. Now, what that does is you want that worked so that the gluten development has been taken to the point where it's going to help trap in those air gases, which once again is going to help give you that lift and that rise of your baked products. So this is looking good. I think we're ready to take this to the bulk ferment. So we're going to take this out of the mixer. And then of course what I like to do is add just a little bit of oil, canola oil, to the bowl in which I'm going to be doing my bulk ferment in. I'll move it onto the table, give it a couple quick kneads. Now here's one of my little tricks that I like to do when I'm making any type of bread product, is I kind of knead it into a nice little ball and then flip it over, tuck it, and that first smooth part is going to be going into the bowl with the canola oil, flip it over, and then give it a nice little tuck and fold. Cover that with a kitchen towel or plastic wrap, and we're going to let that bulk ferment for about 1 to 2 hours, depending on the temperature of your kitchen. If you've got a really warm kitchen, could be an hour. If you've got a cooler kitchen, you're probably looking more like 2. In Canada, we grow about 7 times more wheat than we can consume, and so much of it is exported. It's sought after worldwide for its protein, quality, and versatility. In fact, 20 million tons of Canadian wheat were exported in 2021, making their way to nearly every continent. Top export countries include the United States, Indonesia, Bangladesh, Peru, Japan, and Italy. That means that even a New York-style bagel is also very likely to contain Canadian wheat. Canadian wheat makes the world's best products. All right, now that 2 hours has passed, we're just gonna check our dough here, and oh yes. Yeah, I've got that beautiful smell of that fermentation happening. This is looking beautiful. And now this is basically, in my mind, one of the funnest parts about making bagels is the shaping. So I'm gonna take my dough out, just onto any type of flat surface. We're just gonna knock any of the extra gas that now has built up through the fermentation bulk ferment process. Now, here's a little tip that I always like to give everybody when making a dough product. A lot of times you're always talking about dusting the flour, on your surface and, making sure that it's not sticking to the table. Well, you know what? A lot of times you can overdo the flour, and then therefore it's going to be really hard to actually shape and roll out your dough product. So I always err on the side of go without any. If you need to add a little bit of flour, then you can. But don't jump right to the flour equation. So once we've degassed this, now we're going to shape this into 8 even pieces. And by even, I mean, you know what? I'm going to eyeball it a little bit here. So I'll cut it into 4, and then from there, those 4, I'll cut into 8. If you got like, a couple more grams on one bagel than the other, so be it. Now, a couple different ways that you can form your bagels. And I find that this is probably the easiest way, especially if you're just starting out, is to roll it out with your hands, starting to stretch at that center and working your way out. And what that'll do is create a little bit of a elongated rope-like shape that what we can do then is attach it, give it one more roll to seal it in, and you've got your bagel. So that's one way. The other way, and this is kind of maybe even a little bit of a quicker way to do it, is to form it into a ball, nice and smooth like that. And then you can just poke a hole in the center and then roll out. And then you've got your bagel. We've got to let these rest for about 15 minutes to allow the gluten to relax. So now that the bagels have rested 15 minutes, it's time to do the boiling. Now, of course, we're going to be adding the honey, 3/4 of a cup to our boiling water. And this is the main significant difference between the Montreal style bagel and the New York style bagel. This is going to give them that sweetness, that crispy exterior that we love with Montreal style bagels. So they're going to go top side into your boiling water. Now, you'll want to choose a pot that's large enough so that you can do at least probably 3 to 4 in each batch. Like I say, top side down for approximately 1 minute. After that, we're going to flip them, let them go for about another 30 seconds to a minute, and then they can get put into our favorite seasonings here. Now, Bee Made honey has been a staple in Canadian households for decades, and 100% Canadian honey is well loved around the world as well as locally. Bee Made is produced by a co-op of local beekeepers. It's a versatile pantry staple that can be used as a sweetener, flavor enhancer, binder, and so much more. Now let's get dipping these into flavor here. So like I had mentioned, I'm kind of an everything bagel type person, so I'm gonna put mine into the everything spice, which has got sesame seeds, garlic, onion powder, black sesame seeds. But hey, you can do whatever you want to do with your bagels. Sesame seed only, heck, even sprinkle them with a little bit of poppy seeds. If you're gonna do an everything bagel, I don't think there's a real need to season them. But if you're gonna be just doing like a poppy seed or a sesame seed, I think you'll wanna do a little bit of top salt right before they go into the oven. Now we're gonna bake these at 375 for about 10 to 15 minutes. Oh, I can't wait. It's been 15 minutes and it almost feels like the longest 15 minutes of my life because these bagels are smelling outrageous. So I'm just gonna open the oven. Yep, they are done. They're coming out. And I gotta say, you know what? This is a tremendous looking, smelling Montreal style bagel and I can't wait to dig in. But I'm gonna hold off, let them cool down for a few minutes. All right, it's time to try one of these bagels and see what all the buzz is about. I'm gonna go with the everything bagel, because like I said, that's my favorite one. But they're gonna be all delicious. A little bit of this honey almond butter on top, which you can find this recipe on the GTOM website as well. Oh my God. Sweet, crispy, little bit of chew to it. That right there is a Montreal style bagel. Okay, don't mind me, I'm gonna eat this whole thing. Oh, damn, that's good. We'll share the links to these recipes below. We've got lots of other video inspiration for you, including a whole series on the world's best breakfast dishes. If you love learning how to take simple ingredients and turn them into something special, subscribe. We're sharing new recipes and stories every week.